Yeah, Hare Krishna, Swami Cook Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All good Sri Prabhupada. Whenever you're ready, you can start Mataji with the reading.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrutyam Naranchaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Nashtaprayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevayat Bhagavate Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः नमो पङ्कजनाभाय नमो पङ्कजमालिने नमो पङ्कजनेत्राय नमस्ते पङ्कजाङ्घ्रि Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th Canto, 32nd chapter, verses 1 to 22, the reunion. Text 1. Sukadeva Goswami said, O king, having thus sung and spoken their heart out in various charming ways, the gopis began to weep loudly. They were very eager to see Lord Krishna. Text 2. Then Lord Krishna, a smile on his lotus face, appeared before the gopis. Wearing a garland and a yellow garment, he directly appeared as one who can bewilder the mind of Cupid, who himself bewildered the mind of ordinary people. Text 3. When the gopis saw that their dear most Krishna had returned to them, they all stood up at once, and out of their affection for him, their eyes bloomed wide. It was as if the air of life had re-entered their bodies. Text 4. One gopi joyfully took Krishna's hand between her folded palms, and another placed his arms anointed with sandalwood paste on her shoulder. Text 5. A slender gopi respectfully took in her joined hands the betel nut he had chewed, and another gopi, burning with desire, put his lotus feet on her breast. Text 6. One gopi, beside herself with loving anger, bit her lips and stared at him with frowning eyebrows, as if it wounded her, as if to wound him with her harsh glances. Text 7. Another gopi looked with unblinking eyes upon his lotus face, but even after deeply relishing its sweetness, she did not feel satiated, just as mystic saints are never satiated when meditating upon the Lord's feet. Text 8. One gopi took the Lord through the aperture of her eyes and placed him within her heart. Then, with her eyes closed and her bodily hair standing on end, she continuously embraced him within. Thus, immersed in transcendental ecstasy, she resembled a yogi meditation upon the Lord. Text 9. All the gopis enjoyed the greatest festivity when they saw their beloved Kesava again. They gave up the distress of separation, just as people in general forget their misery when they gain the association of a spiritual enlightened person. Text 10. Encircled by the gopis, who were now relieved of all distress, Lord Achyuta, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, shone forth splendidly. My dear King, Krishna thus appeared like the super soul encircled by his spiritual potencies. Text 11-12. The Almighty Lord then took the gopis with him to the bank of the Kalindi, who with the hands of her waves has scattered piles of soft and upon the shore. In that auspicious place, the breeze, bearing the fragrance of blooming kunda and mandara flowers, mandara flowers attracted many bees, and the abundant rays of the autumn moon dispelled the darkness of night. Text 13. Their heartache vanquished by the ecstasy of seeing Krishna. The gopis, like the personified Vedas before them, felt their desire completely fulfilled. For their dear friend Krishna, they arranged a seat with their shawls, which were smeared with the kunkuma powder from their breast. Text 14. Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for whom the greatest master of the mystic meditation arranged a seat within their heart, took his seat in the assembly of gopis. His transcendental body, the exclusive abode of beauty and opulence within the three worlds, shone brilliantly, and the gopis worshipped him. Text 15. Sri Krishna had awakened romantic desire within the gopis, and they honored him by glancing at him with playful smiles, gesturing amorously with their eyebrows and massaging their hand and feet as they held them in their laps. Even even while worshipping him, however, they felt somewhat anger, and thus they addressed him as follows. Text 16. The gopis said, some people reciprocated the affection only of those who are affectionate towards them, while others show affection even to those who are indifferent or inimical. And yet others will not show affection towards anyone. Dear Krishna, please properly explain this matter to us. Text 17. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, so called friends who show affection for each other only to benefit themselves are actually selfish. They had no true friendship, nor are they following the true principles of the religion. Indeed, if they did not expect benefit for themselves, they would not reciprocate. Text 18. My dear, slender waisted gopis, some people are genuinely merciful or like parents, naturally affectionate. Such persons who devotedly serve even those who fail to reciprocate with them are, are following the truth, faultless path of religion, and they are true well wishers. Text 19. Then they are those individuals who are spiritually self satisfied, materially fulfilled, or by nature ungrateful to or ungrateful or simply envious or of superiors. Such persons will not love even those who love them. What to speak of those who are inimical? Text 20. But the reason I do not immediately reciprocate the affections of the living beings, even when they worship me, O gopis, is that I want to intensify their loving devotion. They then become like a poor man who has gained some wealth and then lost it, and who thus becomes so anxious about it that he can think of nothing else. Text 21. My dear girls, understanding that simply for my sake you had rejected the authority of worldly opinion of the Vedas and of your relatives, I acted as I did only to increase your attachment to me. Even when I removed myself from your sight by suddenly disappearing, I never stopped loving you. Therefore, my beloved gopis, please do not harbor and any bad feelings towards me, your beloved. Text 22. I am not able to repay my debt for your spotless service, even within a lifetime of Brahma. Your connection with me is beyond reproach. You, you have worshipped me, cutting off all domestic ties, which are difficult to break. Therefore, please let your own glories deed be your compensation. Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purport of Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th Canto, 32nd chapter, entitled The Reunion. Thank you very much, Prabhuji and Matajis. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you so much, Swami Mataji, for reading the translations. Hare Krishna Sundaracala Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes Sri Prabhupada. Yeah, whenever you're ready, you can start, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Sundaram Prabhuji, for the opportunity. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you, Swami Mataji, for reading translations. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Mahom Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namini नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे. Dear devotees, thank you for assembling today, for hearing the Krishna Katha, the chapter 32 of 10th Canto, which is the reunion of gopis with their dearest beloved Krishna. So we're going to discuss that chapter, the whole chapter today. So please bear with me. I will try to conclude it within one, by 737. So gopis have been um, experiencing the separation when suddenly Krishna left, seeing the attitude that little bit of pride has crept into their hearts. Krishna has actually left the association of the dearest devotees, and then gopis have been crying for Krishna, and now Krishna is appearing before the gopis. That is the sweetest moment that we're going to hear today. So the very second verse, it actually starts like this. It explains how Krishna appeared there. Tasham avidbhut chauri smayamana mukhambujaha and Pitambaradhara Sragvi Sakshan Manmatha. So this Lord Krishna who appeared in midst of the gopis at that time was actually is so captivating that he even bewildering the minds of even Cupid himself, mind of Cupid himself. So usually what Cupid does, he bewilders the minds of ordinary people. And Krishna is so captivating and beautiful like that. When you think of a form of Krishna and you remember his eyes, you can see what do you remember when you remember the form of Krishna. His eyes is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam that they can destroy, they create, and they can create, they maintain the desires of their devotees. So when we remember his smile, the effect of smile is that it breaks the pride of his devotees. That's what they sung in the Gopi Gita. And if we meditate on his lotus feet, there are so many verses. For example, Yat Pada Pankaja Palasa Vilasa Bhaktya. In that verse, if you say Karma Sayam Gratita Mudgratayanti Santaha, the aspirations for material enjoyment will get cleansed away from their heart. That's the effect in the devotees' hearts when we meditate on Lord's lotus feet. And there are many verses like this. Sanchintaye Bhagavatas Charana Ravindam. In that verse, it is explained that also the darkness of materialism we have in our heart is also vanquished, and we meditate on different symbols of on the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, like umbrella, lotus, and elephant gourd, and so on. So if we meditate on Lord's lotus feet, there are so many benefits. So according to if you see how are we attracted to Krishna, how gopis are getting, so we are attracted to Krishna as a sadhana bhaktas, by hearing, and that is how he attracts us. And according to the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Madana Gopal, which is explained in this verse, the chief deity of Vrindavan is the enjoyer of the rasa dance, and that is the form that is being described in this verse. And who is that form? That form of Krishna, who is actually directly the son of king of Braja, and that form who is so dear to Srimati Radharani and Sri Lalita and others, and he manifests in midst of them like a Cupid of the Cupids. So according to Krishna Raj Kaviraj Goswami, it is Radharani, Lalita and others, amongst which he manifested as Madana Gopalji. So wearing yellow garments, he decorated himself with a flower garland, with a smiling lotus face, looked directly like the charmer of the heart of the Cupid. So, and then meditation in his lotus with different parts of his body, what happens is our affection should not be placed. Why it is highlighted is because in Sukadeva Goswami is trying to cultivate as a habit that instead of misplacing our affection and placing it anywhere except Krishna, is trying to cultivate us that we need to focus on Krishna. So how do we focus on Krishna? We know his his exalted qualities. That's why these qualities are wonderfully described. When we hear these verses describing Krishna, then we can meditate on his form, and if we meditate on his form, then this form will continue to stay in our heart. So, and in Krishna book, actually, Prabhupada says one wonderful point. He actually appeared like a exquisite sapphire in the midst of a golden ornaments, and Mayavadi's conception of perfection and absolute truth without potency is due to the insufficient knowledge. Here, in the next set of verses, it described that Krishna is uh, surrounded by his devotees, gopis, and that increased his beauty more than what he has. He has certain amount of beauty, but when he's surrounded and worshipped by his purest devotees, his beauty has enhanced multiple times. That's what Prabhupada has mentioned. But what Mayavadi's conception is that an absolute truth without potency, without his energies, not surrounded by energies. And this is pure insufficient knowledge. They just focus on either Paramatma or either they focus on the impersonal Brahman. Is that really the actual glory of the absolute truth? No, that is just the base, one of the elements of absolute truth. So the idea is God without potency. That's what Mayavadis make mistake. Only either they think him as a material, his body is made of material elements, just like us, or they think that not so. Rest of the things, energies of Lord is not so important. So that's the mistake Mayavadis do. So here, that's why Sukadev Goswami in this next set of verses were describing how the supreme absolute truth himself is glorified when he's surrounded by his energies, and how the Lord's form is Ananda Chinmaya Rasa. Prabhupada says in the Krishna book, which is a transcendental form with a bliss and a knowledge. So now, so when we hear these actually these verses, what happens is these there are a couple of verses that mentioned in the 6th chapter that if one attains supreme personality of Godhead, then he has no desire of anything. If you see how the attitude of gopis, the purest devotees, they have no other goal except Krishna. And whether he is there personally or not, even for 100 years he was absent from more than 100 years, he was not they were not associated, they didn't had even a vision personal association of Krishna, but still their only goal was Krishna. It never deviated. And what this helps us to understand is um, there are the verses in Bhagavad Gita, for example, 6.21, 6.22, I was just going through. Sukham aichantikam yattat buddhigrahi matindriyam veti yatra na chaivayam sthitas chalati tattvataha. So in the joy state, one is situated, a yogi is situated, a devotee, pure bhakti yogi is situated in a boundless transcendental happiness, realized through transcendental senses. Uh, and established thus, one never departs from the truth. Sitas chalati tattvataha. And then it is mentioned in the 22nd verse, Yam ladva chaparam labham manyate nadikattataha. Upon gaining this, he thinks that there is nothing greater gain than this. Yasmin sito nanadukkhena gurunapi vichalyate. Being situated in such position, one is never shaken even in the midst of the greatest of the difficulties. Gurunapi na vichalyate. And we can see that these verses of Bhagavad Gita, they come alive when we hear this Leela of Krishna and the gopis, right? And it is only remains theoretical until that point. And verse 3, gopis saw that the dearest Krishna had returned to them. They all stood up at once, and out of their affection for him, their eyes bloomed wide. It was as if the air of life, their life airs have re-entered their bodies. They were almost dead. And nectar of devotion, I was hearing one of the lecture where it is quoted, nectar of devotion chapter 28. It describes the emotions there. When a person is confused with simultaneous happiness and tribulation, he or she does not know what to do. State of confusion is called pralaya or devastation. So they were in this condition, and it all represents. It is mentioned in Nectar of Devotion. It represents the symptoms of ecstatic love when it started becoming manifesting. The ecstatic love. These are the symptoms. When the gopis were searching after Krishna, and all of a sudden he came out from the forest, and all of them became stunned and almost senseless. And in that state, gopis appeared so very beautiful. And in this this is the example that was given of this particular emotion in the Nectar of Devotion. Verse number 4 to 8, they describe the personal expressions of ecstatic love of some of the principal gopis. It is described in Skanda Purana, in the commentaries of Acharyas, 16,000 gopis were present in this group of devotees. Out of these 16,000, 108 were prominent. And out of these 108, 8 gopis are still more prominent. And these 8 gopis include Radharani and Chandravali and some of the members of their groups. And out of these, even more prominent among these 8 are 2 gopis, Radharani and Chandravali. And out of these 2, even the most prominent is Radharani. And that is what is described in the Shastras. And 8 beloved of Krishna who are described here is Chandravali, Bhadra, Padma, Shaibya, Shyama, Vishakha, Lalita, and Radha. So Ashtasakis, which we see in the Radharani's group, that we see in Mayapur, they are Sri Lalita. They are different from this group because this group comprises both the parties of Chandravali and Radharani. But this group that is being discussed is specifically a mixture of both the groups. That is prominent Ashtasakis. But Ashtasakis that we worship in Rupa Nugas, that Prabhupada has introduced us in our Gaudiya Sampradaya, Brahma Madhava Gaudiya Sampradaya is Sri Lalita, Sri Vishakha, Sri Champakalata, Sri Chitra, Sri Tungavidya, Sri Indulekha, Sri Rangadevi, and Sri Sudevi. So when ordinary people who don't have an idea about the depth of this pastime, they think that, oh, they are enjoying, but actually it's all, if you see the descriptions of this wonderful pastime, it's all emotions from beginning to end. We hear all these different emotions of his dearest devotees gopis and emotions of Krishna and their exchange, right? And this is what exactly is happening in the Golok Vrindavan. And how is this how they're appreciating his lotus feet. And it's not just gopis, even in spiritual world, that even the bees, the deer, the forest animals, the trees, they're all also reciprocating and relishing the sweetness of Lord, the emotions and rasa. And verse 9, all the gopis enjoyed the greatest festivity when they saw their beloved Keshava again, and they gave up the distress of separation, just as people in general forget their misery when they gain the association of spiritually enlightened person. So, in the 10th verse, encircled by the gopis, we were now relieved of all distress. Lord Achyuta, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, shone forth splendidly among the association of gopis. My dear King Parikshit, King Krishna thus appeared like the super soul encircled by his spiritual potencies. You hear this about yogis in the analogy. Where do they go wrong? We just discussed a little bit ago. They think that super soul, that's it, there is nothing else, right? Yogis, and no body, there is no, there is no one else apart from the super soul. That's what every yogis think. And their primary focus is just the super soul, but not the. But what this verse reveals is the super soul is surrounded by his energies, right? And Krishna, just like how Krishna is surrounded by his dearest associates, right? Lord in the form of a super soul, Lord in the form of Bhagwan, he is always surrounded by his parshads, devotees, and his energies. Uh, and this is where yogis do go wrong, Prabhupada says. And now Sukadeva Goswami is benefiting them and all of us by by explaining how to really meditate if you want to meditate on a super soul. How to meditate without ignoring the spiritual potencies which are surrounding the super soul. Just like how we got the best thing to meditate on, Krishna and his dearest devotees and energies of Krishna. That is a proper meditation. If we ignore the devotees around Krishna, then that is the incomplete meditation and the incomplete worship of Krishna. So that's what Sukadeva Goswami is revealing in this verse. And Krishna loves the gopis with a pure transcendental love, and they love him in the purest way. The whole affair conducted on the transcendental platform is inconceivable to those bound in the material existence. Prabhupada says in Krishna book. And here it is described these gopis who are actually serving Krishna, putting an asan for him, laying out their clothes to make an arrangement for him to sit. They are all actually, some of them are described to be Shruti Chari gopis who are personified Vedas who prayed in the previous kalpa for Lord Krishna's association. When they got association of Lord Ramachandra, that's when they got benedicted for their desire to have a personally associate with him in the and they got in the Krishna Leela, they participated as gopis. As you can see, the Vedas, which everybody all the Vedic culture, we all follow the Vedic principles, and also we hear the Vedic mantras in these Vedas itself, they themselves have desire to serve Krishna in the form of the exalted form of gopis. It's not an ordinary thing. Vedas are eternal. So just like how they got benedicted from previous kalpa and they got association of Krishna in this kalpa, they continue to worship and they continue to get association of Krishna. That is what is indicated by our acharyas. Here and verse number 14, it is mentioned that Krishna was so kind, he is sitting on the seat amongst the gopis. Krishna appeared so beautiful. Prabhupada says, although he is the most attractive, he becomes even more beautiful. We discussed this. And the great yogis, point to be noted, great yogis like Shiva and Lord Brahma, or even Lord Shesha, it is mentioned in this verse. These are not my words, that always try to fix their attention upon Krishna in their hearts, even the greatest of the yogis that we just listed. And Krishna, who was so kind to the gopis, that instead of sitting in their hearts to be appreciated in yogic meditation, he seated himself by their sides, gopis. That is the exaltedness of gopis. By seating himself outside, he showed special favor to the gopis, who were the select beauties of all the creation, Prabhupada says. So how do we compare exalted souls versus gopis like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma? So Lord Brahma, he's seeking Krishna only in his heart. No, normally he doesn't get darshan. When he goes to see him with devatas to pray for his to pray to reappear in this earth, he goes to ocean of milk and he sees in the meditation only. He doesn't see him personally, right? Krishna is that super soul dwelling in everyone's heart. Ishvara Sarvabhutanam. And what is happening here? That is what Sukadeva Goswami is using here. That super soul is appearing in the midst of the gopis, personally beside them, and seeing them face to face. That's the glory of the gopis. And conditioned souls versus gopis, if you compare, uh, what's in for him? If he can do it So people might think, what's in for him? If he can do it inside, why can't he do it out? Why can't he expand outside also? That's what we get doubt, right? At least I got that doubt. It's just the problem is that most of the conditioned souls cannot see him inside. So there is no pointing in appearing outside for such conditioned souls. That's the point here. But for the gopis, he came outside, so they could see him outside also. But says uh, for gopis in the descriptions, when he appears outside, he disappears from inside. When he disappears from outside, he appears in their hearts. So they were having constant association. Like for what happens to, so uh, what is that a lesson for us is, we can neither see, we may neither be able to see him outside or inside, but we have a possibility of seeing his darshan in our ISKCON Baltimore temple or even our home deities. So we can daily have darshan of Lord Krishna in that way. So, and it is described that what to speak of Krishna, sometimes we cannot even see the subtle material elements like air and ether unless we can perceive them, right, with our intelligence. Unless we perceive them with intelligence and our senses, we cannot even ordinarily perceive even the subtle element, gross material elements, which are little subtler, like ether in the sky, and also the air in the surrounding us. We cannot even perceive them. So what to speak of Krishna if that is the case? Uh, and verse number 16, because gopis were feeling the same sentiment within each of their hearts, they reflected in a similar way and they recited together this verse. Gopis of same mood together. What did they recite? There are some. So, oh, most intelligent one, O Krishna, please answer this riddle of ours. You are some people, their respect is conditional. They give respect expecting something. If they do not get, then they no longer respect. We see second category of people who are quite contrary, where those who give respect, uh, they are those who give respect to those who do not even respect them. They're another set of people. They give unconditional respect, unconditional love. The third category of people, there are people like they do not respect anyone, whether the other person respects or not, irrespective of it. So there's no question of condition or conditional love in such people. So here they are actually lovingly asking Krishna, instead of blaming, why did you leave us suddenly when we are hoping to have worship you? Why did you leave us? So instead of blaming, uh, even though they were lamenting, they lovingly asked Krishna, do you fall under this category? Why are you falling on one of these categories where you don't reciprocate, even other people are trying to reach you out, and you yourself claim yourself as a uh, uh, Tam Tatahi Bhajamyaham, I reciprocate as you worship me. But it seems like you don't do that. That's why they are asking this question. You promised, but you don't look like be reciprocating properly. So they brought up these points. Which category do you fall under, Krishna? You only decide. Like that, they asked Krishna to solve the puzzle. Now Krishna intelligently responds, and it is described, after hearing what Krishna responded, the gopis started actually smiling at, and their face became brightened, and they started smiling at each other faces, being confused of what he responded. And that indicates, and also they became happy to hear his response. What did Krishna responded? I am actually uh, doing it to increase the attachment of your hearts. That's what he responds with. And he says, don't envy, oh dear gopis, just because I disappeared for some time. That doesn't mean I don't love you. I continue to love all of you, Joe, because though I disappeared from your personal presence. That's what Krishna reveals. And as soon as they hear this, they become so happy and satisfied. And this is what is described in the next set of verses. That's it for today, dear devotees. The conclusion basically from the purport is that gopis became eternally glorious by their behavior in the Lord's temporary absence and mutual love between them, and the love was wonderfully enhanced in his absence. And this is the perfection of Krishna and his loving devotees. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for your patience. Hare Krishna, dear Prabhuji.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Prabhuji.
you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So well said.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Sundaracala Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.